Hi, my name is Kristen Madden. As the archivist at the History Museum, I know that photos are a great way to document our history. From a 1920s photo of a child playing in the snow to a digital image of a new business opening, pictures help tell our history. Please join me as we take a look back at some of the vintage photos in our collection.
Hello everyone! In honor of the 2020 presidential elections, today we're going to talk about some of our United States presidents and the times they have visited in South Bend. William McKinley was the 25th President of the United States from 1897 to his assassination in 1901. During his presidency, McKinley led the nation to victory in the Spanish-American War, raised protective tariffs to promote American industry, and kept the nation on the gold standard in a rejection of the expansionary monetary policy of free silver. President McKinley reportedly only came to South Bend once to view the graves of his paternal grandparents, James and Mary McKinley, who are buried in City Cemetery. James and Mary passed away within hours of each other on August 20, 1846, from what is believed to be malaria. It was rumored that they were buried in the same grave and that President McKinley's father, William Sr., had them separated into two graves later on. Franklin Delano Roosevelt served as the 32nd President of the United States from 1933 until his death in 1945. Roosevelt directed the federal government during most of the Great Depression, implementing his New Deal domestic agenda. He built the New Deal coalition, which defined modern liberalism in the United States throughout the middle third of the 20th century. When FDR became the first U.S. president to receive an honorary degree from the University of Notre Dame, it came at what on the surface would seem to be an unusual event, a special convocation on December 9, 1935, recognizing the evolving independence of the Philippine Islands. However, the university had long taken interest in the Philippines due to the predominance of Catholics in that commonwealth. So it was that Notre Dame planned a celebration of the passage of U.S. legislation that would fully establish an independent Philippines in 10 years. The event was scheduled to coincide with the inauguration of the country's first president, but when Roosevelt learned of the celebration, he asked that it be delayed until he could attend. The university's president, Reverend John F. O'Hara, agreed and asked Roosevelt to also accept an honorary degree. With some 5,000 students, faculty, staff, and visitors in attendance, the university cited Roosevelt as a leader and ruler who, with faith and invincible courage when other brave men were faltering, took the reins of government at a crisis which threatened with collapse and chaos the centuries civilization and institutions of our country and the rest of the world, and who is now, by achievement even more than by our official position, the first citizen of our republic. The president then delivered a 14-minute speech reviewing the U.S. role in the Philippines over the previous 40 years. He concluded by drawing a comparison between Notre Dame's values and the intrinsic rights of all people. There can be no true national life, either within a nation itself or between that nation and other nations, unless there be the specific acknowledgement of, and the support of organic law too, the rights of man, the president said. Supreme among those rights we, and now the Philippine Commonwealth, hold to be the rights of freedom of education and freedom of worship. This university from which we send our welcome to the new Commonwealth exemplifies the principles of which I speak. Harry S. Truman was the 33rd President of the United States from 1945 to 1953, after serving as Vice President under FDR. He implemented the Marshall Plan to rebuild the economy of Western Europe and established the Truman Doctrine and NATO. On October 26, 1948, Truman arrived by train in South Bend as part of a run for presidency and gave a speech. Part of the speech goes, "South Bend is one of the great melting pots of this country. Families of great many races and religions work here together, side by side as Americans, for the welfare of this great nation of ours. You know that being an American is more than a matter of where you or your parents came from. It is a belief that all men are created free and equal and that everyone deserves an even break. It is a respect for the dignity of men and women without regard to race, creed, or color. That is our creed. That is the creed of the Democratic Party. When we tell the world that we believe that all men are entitled to earn a decent living without regard to race or national origin or religion, we have got to live up to what we say. If we are to live up to the ideals which have made this country great, then we must elect a Congress and administration that believes in the principles that have made this nation great. It is your duty as an American citizen to vote. It is your duty to study the record and know exactly where the two parties stand. Dwight Eisenhower served as the 34th President of the United States from 1953 to 1961. During World War II, he became a five-star general in the Army and served as Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force in Europe. He was responsible for planning and supervising the invasion of North Africa and Operation Torch in 1942 to 1943 and the successful invasion of Normandy in 1944 to 1945 from the Western Front. In 1960, Eisenhower became the first president to serve as the principal commencement speaker for a commencement at Notre Dame. His invitation came at the last minute, though. After several individuals had declined speaking, Reverend Theodore Hesburgh's assistant, Helen Hazinski, an admirer of Eisenhower, suggested Father Hesburgh invite him. Father Hesburgh had been appointed by Eisenhower to the National Science Board and the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, but he was reluctant to invite the president on such short notice, but agreed to invite the president anyhow. Much to his surprise, Eisenhower accepted and even interrupted his 45th reunion of his class at the U.S. Military Academy to travel to South Bend. In his 20-minute commencement address, Eisenhower foreshadowed a U.S. government on the verge of social and political change and one facing the difficult task of striking the right balance. We do not want governmental programs which, advanced, often falsely, in the guise of promoting the general welfare, destroy in the individual whose priceless qualities of self-independence, self-confidence, and a readiness to risk his judgment against the trends of the crowd, Eisenhower said. We do want a government that assures the security and general welfare of the nation and its people in concord with the philosophy of Abraham Lincoln, who insisted that government should do and do only the things which people cannot well do for themselves. JFK was the 35th President of the United States from January 1961 until his assassination in November of 1963. Kennedy served at the height of the Cold War, and the majority of his work as president concerned relations with the Soviet Union and Cuba. Prior to his presidency, Kennedy served as the representative from Massachusetts in the House and Senate. As a congressman, Kennedy served as the winter commencement speaker at Notre Dame and received an honorary degree on January 29, 1950. He said, "This is a happy day in my life. I am deeply honored in being admitted to the ranks of the men of Notre Dame. I have cheered for old Notre Dame most of my life, and so you can understand my feelings as I come for the first time to this great university dedicated to Our Lady of the Lake." In 1957, Kennedy returned to Notre Dame to accept the university's Patriotism Award. Just 2 months later, Kennedy spoke to the Notre Dame Club of Washington, D.C., speaking at length about his service on a special Senate committee investigating labor racketeering. In addition to his speaking engagements on and off campus, JFK was a charter member of the Notre Dame Lay Advisory Council for the College of Liberal and Fine Arts, now the College of Arts and Letters, which was formed in 1954 and met on campus twice yearly. Kennedy accepted Notre Dame's highest honor, the Laetare Medal, a little over a year after his election as president, the oldest and most prestigious honor given to an American Catholic. The Laetare Medal was established in 1883 and is awarded to a Catholic, whose genius has ennobled the arts and sciences, illustrated the ideals of the church, and enriched the heritage of humanity. Richard Nixon was the 37th President of the United States, serving from 1969 to 1974. Nixon previously had served as Vice President from 1953 to 1961, and having risen to national prominence as the state representative and senator from California. After 5 years in the White House that saw the conclusion of the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War and the establishment of the Environmental Protection Agency, he became the only president to resign from office. Nixon attended a Notre Dame football game just 3 weeks after he and Eisenhower were elected president and vice president in November of 1952. After receiving the Patriot of the Year award in 1960, he told the assembled students, "When you go out from this university, may I urge you to strike at ignorance, strike at provincialism, strike at prejudice wherever it rears its head." Nixon also appointed Father Hesburgh chair of the Civil Rights Commission in 1969, then fired the priest 3 years later when the commission leveled criticism at his administration for failing to carry out various civil rights laws. Gerald Ford served as the 38th President of the United States from August 1974 to January 1977. Ford had previously served as Vice President from 1973 to 1974. He is the only person to have served as both Vice President and President without being elected to either office by the Electoral College. On March 17, 1975, Gerald Ford participated in a St. Patrick's Day academic convocation at Notre Dame, where he accepted an honorary degree and delivered a speech against New Isolationism. During his time at the university, he also met with several Midwest governors, a group of college and university presidents, and a select few Notre Dame faculty members.
Thank you for joining me today. This program is a part of our Look Back series. You can find more vintage photos at historymuseumsb.org. Just click on the Look Back icon on our homepage. We're always interested in adding more images to our archives, whether photographs or digitals, from 100 years ago or today. So please contact me if you're interested in donating to our collection. See you next time.